We're going to call the meeting to order. Thank you for coming, everyone. I'm going to do the roll calls. Kay Young.
Here.
David Cunningham. Julia Flaherty.
Here.
Peter Herbst. Here. Erin Joyce. Shayna Bonds-Monroe. Not here. Shelley North.
Here.
Elizabeth Page.
Here.
Joseph Reynolds.
Here.
And Raina Rubin.
Here.
Okay. Okay, great. So next we're going to move to the first portion of the agenda, which is the member and staff announcements by Melissa.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair. Very quickly, I have two announcements for the committee. The planning department, in conjunction with our consultant, Jane Goldson, is in the process of providing a massive response to a data request that had come from the consultant. There was about 8 pages of different information, town data, GIS maps, all different types of items related to open space, housing, recreation, transportation, and GIS stuff. So that's almost completed. And then also we are gearing up to do our focus groups. And the focus groups will be conducted in April. And there are various topics, and I will recite those very quickly. The first one's transportation, circulation, and transit. The second one is economic development. The third is housing. The fourth is historic and cultural resources. The fifth is open space, natural resources, and recreation. And last but not least, sustainability and resilience. So if there's any members of the public that are watching from home tonight and they're interested in any of the focus groups, or if any of the master plan steering committee members have some suggestions of people that they know in the community, residents, neighbors, friends, that would be a good fit for one of these groups, if they would email me that person's information or have that person reach out to me. We are looking for 7 people on each of those groups, and I'd like to try to firm that up in the next week or so. And that's it for announcements, Madam Chair.
Okay, great. Thank you, Melissa. And the next item on the agenda is Jennifer Goldson, our consultant, is going to address a whole list of items. Yes, this might take a while.
Okay, great. I'm Jen Goldson, and you've met both Delaney and I before. We have a PowerPoint we're going to share with you just to keep us organized around our thoughts, and we have an activity to do with you as well. And so, you all know that I am the owner and founder of J.M. Goldson, and I'm your prime consultant. And on our team, we also have RKG Associates, as well as Kittleson, sorry, I'm blanking, Associates. And they're not here tonight, but they'll be involved throughout. You'll mostly see our faces, although we did have a really lovely tour with Melissa and Connor and the mayor today, where we got the senior center van and we went all over town for a few hours, and both RKG and Kittleson Associates were represented there as well. So Delaney, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, my name's Delaney Almond, and I'm a community planner at J.M. Goldson, and it's very nice to see all of you in person. I know I've met most of you online. Yeah, I'm just excited to be here, and I'll be going over the website that we've created in a little bit later in the presentation. So.
All right, great. So I don't know how sensitive these are. Do we have to keep moving it back and forth? Or
The microphone?
Yes.
I think it's fine. Bill will let us know if it's not.
All right, yeah, let us know. Okay. So what we're going to go over today is the Phase 1 schedule. I like to just anchor us every time we meet and where we are and what is the immediate next step. And for each phase, we'll create a detailed schedule. Then we'll talk about the focus groups that Melissa started to talk about already. We just want to get into a little more detail with you. And then we're going to break into smaller groups. We were thinking 3 or 4 of you, I think, could participate in this mapping exercise that we prepared, and then anyone who's here tonight is also welcome. I am a big fan of just involving anyone who wants to spend the evening with us to participate, and we'd like to do activities like this at as many master plan meetings as we can. Sometimes we won't have something to do like this, but most of the time we'd like to do that so you can be really not just listening to us speak, but sharing your ideas and thoughts along the way as well. And then any people who are here in attendance can do the same. And then after that, so that will take, half an hour, maybe a little longer. We're going to see how you do with it, and but we're not rushed on it. And then we'll convene back again and go over the website. Delaney's going to go over the draft website. And then we'll talk about the first community forum, which is planned for May 21st, which is a Saturday. And then that's it. And then we'll talk about the next meeting, and that'll be the end of our part. So that'll take up most of the night. So I hope that's okay.
That's great, thank you.
Okay, good. All right. So in terms of the schedule, it's probably a little bit small on the screen, but I'm just going to read
Everyone has one.
Do we have any extras for folks back there? Okay. So you've seen this before. This hasn't changed. We are at the March meeting number 2. And then next month, as Melissa mentioned, we're holding a number of weeks to schedule these focus groups. And then after that, we'll meet with you again at the end of April, and we want to share what we learned at those focus groups. And then we also want to prepare for and design the community workshop with you. And then after that, and throughout these months, we're working on the existing conditions report. Melissa said we were asking for a big data dump, which the town has been amazingly responsive. We have a Dropbox that different town departments have been dropping things into for us to review. And then you'll see that we, in May, what we'll do is have the community forum. So you won't have a regular meeting that month because you'll be going to that forum and really sponsoring it, and that will end up being your meeting, even though it's on a Saturday. And then in June, we'll be submitting that existing conditions report in draft form for you to review, and we want to present that to you as well as the planning board and the town council so that we can get feedback and make revisions over the summer. So that's the general schedule. And the next immediate step is the focus groups. So before I go into that, does anyone have questions about the general schedule for phase 1? I know you've seen it before, but I'm happy to talk more about it. I breezed over it pretty quickly. Okay. And Chair Wadlin, I don't know if you want to ask for folks' comments throughout as I'm presenting, or if you'd rather hold comments to the, to the end. It's up to you.
What would you rather?
I guess if anybody has questions throughout, it would be a little easier maybe to address as we go rather than go back.
Okay, so if anyone has questions, just raise your hand, I'll try to.
All right, great. So let's talk about the focus groups. So sometimes people get confused between focus groups and public forums. So the focus group is our way of understanding a variety of perspectives of people who are either town leaders or serve on board or commissions or have some special knowledge of the subjects that we're studying right now. And so as we put the existing conditions report together, we feel it's really important not just to look at the plans and the reports that you already have and collect new data. We feel it's also important to talk to various knowledgeable people in the community about those things so that when we're trying to understand your existing conditions, we're also talking to folks in your community who are a lot closer to those issues than we are. And it just helps us understand what we're seeing in the data, understand what we're learning in your reports and studies, and understand if there's anything else that we should know. So these are not big public forums. These are really just, instead of doing a bunch of interviews, we like to get, we limit it to 7 people in each one because it's a good size to facilitate just a very open discussion. They're about an hour and 15 minutes long, and we give people a sense of what we're going to ask them about. It's very kind of open about whatever subject it is. We're going to ask them what are the main issues, things that they think should be addressed as part of the plan, not ideas, not for how to address them, but just issues they are seeing in one of the, whichever the topic is. And then we ask them if they see any opportunities or strengths. Similar to the project clarification worksheet that we gave you, they're very broad questions. And typically, the type of leaders that are invited are perhaps people who serve on your town council, perhaps other board or commission members who have some special focus on that area. So, for example, when we run a housing focus group, you'll probably want 1 or 2 people from the planning board, for example. Or, you know, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting off the top of my head. Do you have a housing trust in the community? No, okay. So any other housing committee that's kind of specifically focused on housing, that would be the type of folks that we'd want to come, as well as people who work for the town in those different areas as well. You know, so it could be department managers. Those are the types of folks that we like to bring into the room. And then sometimes you'll get folks in the community who maybe they don't serve in any official capacity, but they've been advocates. Maybe there's a bicycle advocate or something else like that in the community who's really focused on transportation or some other subject. So you could also identify folks like that. And so as the slide says, they're small, up to 7 people each. They're very informal. We don't record them. We just talk with folks and we take notes and then we create a summary of what we've learned. And we'll share that summary with you so you understand the main themes. Now, most of the communities want to know, that we work with, want to know, can you all serve on those focus groups? And the answer is yes, but you don't have to. So if you have 7 other people in mind who have a special knowledge, then I would say you wouldn't serve on it. But if you feel like you can think of 5 or 6 people that we should definitely talk to, and that you would be a 7th person because you also have a special perspective or expertise in that area, then I would say you should. And I know that you're chosen here for your various perspectives. So I would expect that some, or maybe all of you, will participate in those, but it's really up to you. So does that make sense the way I'm laying this out? Okay. And then we have 1 focus group for each element, and Melissa did a very good job. There are 6 elements we'll have focus groups on. So transportation, economic development, housing, historic and cultural resources, open space, natural resources and recreation, and then sustainability and resilience. And then just so you know, the public facilities and services element won't be a focus group. My colleague from RKG is actually going to interview all department managers that are applicable one-on-one. So that's not a focus group. And then, so the immediate next steps, as Melissa said, is to send her any ideas you have. And I gave you a shorter deadline. Melissa said within the next week. On my slide, I said by Monday, but I think we can go with Melissa's more generous within the next week, so by next Thursday. Today's Thursday, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay, good. All right. So with that, what I'd really like to, does anybody have questions about that? I'm sorry, I skipped over questions.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Before about where we can do our own meetings, meeting kits, meetings in a box or something.
Yes.
And I've had some interest about doing that. I want to know where that would fit in, where you would recommend we do those in the schedule.
Yes. So that will be in phase 2. So phase 1 is really focused on existing conditions, and then we'll also do the first forum where we're really kicking off the public-facing portion of,
Okay.
And at that forum, we'll start to talk about what people are concerned or think are issues, as well as what they envision. And then in July, August, September, October, and I can't remember what phase 2 runs through. Usually we do like 5 months or so.
Something like
Yeah.
that.
So it'll run into the fall, possibly into December. I just don't have the dates in front of me. And that phase 2 will be focused on getting out to the community in multiple different ways. So rather than just doing another big public forum, we would do we call it meeting in a box, where it's like a do-it-yourself kind of, we provide a kit for anyone. It doesn't just have to be you all, but anyone who wants to do this, they can invite a few folks over to their living room or meet at a cafe or get a room in town hall or do something on Zoom or do this with their book group or civic organization or whoever it is. So that's one of multiple ways that we try to get folks to contribute in phase 2. And there's lots of other ways that we also do that. but that would be not yet. Yeah.
Oh, good, thanks.
Yes, Julia.
Can you go over again, if somebody wants to be in one of the focus groups, what should they do to make sure they are included?
Yeah, I think that they could email Melissa, and she's basically collecting a list of any ideas that you have or anybody who has expressed an interest in being part of the focus group.
And they should say their name and their contact information and also, their area of interest.
Yeah, and maybe why they're interested, what they feel they would like to contribute,
Okay.
just in general, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Nominate a few folks to these focus groups?
Yeah, I think, Melissa, you were thinking that people would just email you.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I've already kind of penciled in some various people from, for example, some people from the Historic Commission on that, historic and cultural resources, people from the society. I know there's some people in the room that have some interest in some of the topics, so maybe what I can do is start to collect names, and if we get too many people, then we can weed out from there. There are some transportation people that live in the community that I know of that are practicing professional transportation engineers. So just, if there's a suggestion or you know somebody, they can even call me, leave me a message. If they're not even sure and they're like, what's this all about? We can have dialogue around that. I mean, there's really no confined thing, but it's only 7 per, so we have 11 people here. I would prefer to not have 33 names to chip
Right.
away
Okay.
at, but,
Okay.
and the people at home that are watching this evening, my information's all over the website. Just reach out, questions, interest, whatever it might be.
Okay, great. Thank
And
you.
there'll be lots of opportunities to participate. This is just giving us a little jump start so we can understand existing conditions.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'd like to get you organized into this group activity. And we gave you, I think you got by email yesterday, just so you get a heads up of what we're doing. And then you gave this out in paper. Yeah, so you should all have the paper too. And I think that we could give that out back here.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep. I can pass those out.
So we have a very, I think, a simple on its face. I don't know how simple it will be for you to do. But the idea is that you would work in small groups. So we were thinking, I think, Melissa, you were thinking these 4 could work together, right? And the way you're clustered at these tables. But these guys only have 2, so maybe we should take...
Yeah, if somebody from this side wants to link up with, if somebody from this side wants to hook up with Liz and Raina, they can use the table there. And then the folks in the audience can also participate as well with the boards around the room.
Yeah. So, does that make sense? Okay. All right. And so the activity is very simple. So we have 2 parts to it. One is identifying special places in the community, and that's on the front. And then on the back is identifying opportunity areas. And you can define that in many different ways. You can also define special places in many different ways. And you can be, this can be a large area that you feel is a special place. It could be a whole neighborhood if you want. Or it could be specific sites. It could be natural resources. It could be historic resources. It could be, there's not really many rules. It's basically whatever you feel should, in the next 10 years, you would not want to see gone or deteriorated or compromised in some way. So it's places that are special that you want to see preserved or protected. And so you can ask me questions, but it's a very broad definition, and you can sort of interpret that in many different ways. Am I giving you enough explanation? Are you
Sure,
getting
I
some
think that
ideas
makes perfect
already?
sense. Perfect sense.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. And so we have 2 different color markers, which I don't have here, I have all black, but you should have a blue and a red. And so the blue markers are for the special places. Is it blue? Yeah, they're
and
blue.
they're on the tables with the maps.
Oh, they're on the tables with the maps already. So the blue marker is just where you circle or mark, you can put an X on, whatever you want, it doesn't matter. Just where your group feels are special places, and you don't necessarily have to agree. But if for some reason you disagree, you should write that down on, just, you can just use one of these sheets to collect your, one of you can be kind of a note taker. And if for some reason you disagree and feel like that's not a special place, or, whatever the disagreement is, you don't have to come to agreement, just write down what you disagreed about. But if you do come to agreement and you're like really coming to consensus on these things, that would be good to write down too, so that I know what's largely agreed upon. And the way we'd like you to label them, you could circle X, whatever you want, but I'd like you to label it with like an A, B, C, D, some kind of cross-reference, so that when you write something down on your sheet, I can find out on the map where you're talking about. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. And then the red marker is the is the opportunity areas, places that you feel have issues that could use improvement, or that you see present opportunities for change or transformation. And again, you can identify that in many different ways, and I don't want to restrict you from how you identify that. But I'll give you some examples. It could be, small things. Well, maybe you don't think this is small, but it could be detailed things like, we don't have enough crosswalks in this location and it's dangerous for people to cross. And I don't even know if that's the case. I'm just making stuff up right now. Or it could be, I see this industrial location or commercial location or whatever it is as just a big sea of parking that maybe we could transform somehow, utilize differently. And again, I'm not trying to lead you, but from our tour, we think that there might be places like that. So, so those are just examples of what you could say. And then if we're not asking you to tell us how it could be transformed necessarily, all we're asking you to do is say, we think this is a problem. We may not know how to fix it or what we're envisioning, but we're going to put a red circle here and tell you that this area has opportunity for change. If you do have an idea, you might as well tell me. If you already have an idea in your mind, I don't want to limit your imagination, but that's not necessarily how far you have to get tonight. Okay. Do you feel like you have enough guidance on this?
Connor's
Okay.
going to go over the...
Julia? Oh, right.
Is it possible that you can have an area that is judged to be special but also challenged? So it can be blue and red?
Yeah, so that's great. That's a great question. So you can combine things if you're like, portions of this are really special, but maybe other portions, or maybe you can work with both preservation and change in the same site to repurpose something. Or I think that's an excellent observation, and absolutely, yeah, you can get creative with your two colors. Yes. Is it me?
Yes. How will the people in the audience fit into this if they want to
Yes, so
participate?
Melissa and Connor have put up easels around the room where these folks can just gather in small groups, in 2 or 3 people, however you feel comfortable, and do the same exercise themselves on these maps around the room. And there are markers there, and everyone has these sheets for instructions, I think. Does everyone have that? Okay, good. And then at the end, not at the end of the meeting, but just when we seem like you're winding down, and if you're going too long, I'll push you along, but once we wind down, what I'd love to hear is just brief presentations. Not, you have to say every single thing on your map, but just briefly what you noticed, and it's always interesting to see if there are some similarities around what folks marked. And that's the whole exercise. So I think it's straightforward, but I don't want you to feel like I didn't explain it well enough. So please tell me if you have any questions, or if the folks back here have any questions. Okay. All right.
Let's go to it.
So, the other thing that we wanted to do is we felt like our map may be a little hard to read. And we will improve upon that in the future. But what we thought is Connor could just give an overview for folks to just help with some key locations. And do you think you could use one of the big maps to show folks? I can grab it if you want. Oh, yeah, that one. Perfect. And then maybe, what if, Connor, if you stand over here, maybe this
Why don't I grab one of the easels, just so the folks at home and Bill Needham can zoom right in? Or if you want to hold it, that's also fine. I just want to make sure people watching are getting the full experience.
Do you guys want to just stand up and gather around? I want to make sure you can see.
Connor microphone.
So 93 here, Junction, obviously we move further down, South Shore Plaza, we reach Five Corners. And take,
Sorry, hold on. These guys, can we go back here and use that mic?
yeah.
And they can pull it up like so
I'm gonna start over.
Or just come on in if you can't see. Pull up a chair.
So we're starting at 93 Junction. You move down Granite Street past South Shore Plaza, past Forbes Road where the Starbucks and the hotels are. And you get to Five Corners here. 37 is obviously Franklin Street, and then Granite Street comes down and it meets the pond. You move further down Franklin Street, you eventually hit the South Braintree Square area, and that's down here. You move further down Washington, and that'll lead you past the Thayer Sports Academy, and obviously, as many people are familiar, the fire station that's on Washington Street, and then keep following it down to the 37, and you'll be in front of the Sheriff's Department. If we go further north, so you can go back to Five Corners, you take West Street down to Washington. If you go north, you will reach Braintree Square, and then if you go further south down here, you get back to South Braintree Square. Over here, and you can use the rail line as well. The rail line down here puts you at the landing, most notably the landing apartments. If you go north along 53, that puts you towards the Citgo Fuel Farm, and then further towards the shipyard. If you go south, that puts you in the Weymouth. Liberty Street is a little bit off from the landing, but you can follow its spine and it'll lead you all the way down south towards Holbrook. If you look, you'll see symbols for schools. I'm sure most of you can familiar yourselves with that. The high school is opposite Sunset Lake, closer to Five Corners. If you were to look in the Highlands, you would see along Peach Street, you would see South Middle. In addition to that, a couple of the other elementary schools there. Route 3 obviously bisects the town right here. You can use that to familiarize yourselves with the rotaries on Liberty Street, either going north or south. Me and Melissa are going to be walking around, so if you guys have questions about pinpointing specific locations, we can obviously help you.
All right, yeah, and so don't hesitate. If you can't find something, just Melissa and Connor will know better than me and Delaney. We're learning, but they're more experts than we are at this point. Okay, so with that, I think we should go ahead and do your activities. And have you decided who's going to go over here? You'll go over? Okay, great. Okay, so you guys can go there.
And then there's one rolled up right there.
Well, and you know what I
Can we use this one? Or I mean, this one?
I know you couldn't see a thing.
Let's see if we can grab some, like, Stephen. Yeah.
No, I did not. See,
Meet James. He was surprised to find out that he has elevated blood pressure, which could turn into high blood pressure. So he talked with his doctor about a healthy path to get his numbers down. He quit smoking, which makes a big difference for his overall heart health. He also cut down on salt by watching out for high sodium on food labels and added a 30-minute walk 5 days a week to his routine. These healthy steps weren't easy, but lowering his blood pressure was worth it. Learn more about his healthy path.
Like most parents, you dream that your kids will have a good education. You hope they'll be able to go to college or receive vocational training. You want to help your children as much as you can. Did you know that you can start investing in your baby's future today? The Baby Steps Savings Plan is a program offered by the Massachusetts State Treasurer's Office. It's a seeded college savings account program that encourages saving for college in the U Fund, the Massachusetts 529 plan. It lets you invest in your child's post-high school education and training. You'll even get a free $50 deposit when you enroll. Any baby born or adopted on or after January 1st, 2020, who is a Massachusetts resident can be enrolled in Baby Steps. Children can be enrolled in Baby Steps until they turn 1, and adopted children are also eligible up to 1 year after their adoption date. Here's how Baby Steps works. Take the first step by checking the box on the worksheet you receive at the hospital, or enroll online at babystepssavingsplan.org. Next, open a UFund 529 college savings account, and we'll make an initial $50 deposit. After that, you can contribute to the account to build up savings as often as you want. The program also offers free financial education for your family. The earlier you start adding to the account, the more money your child will have for future aspirations like college tuition, vocational training, and other school expenses. It's a fact. Kids with college savings are more likely to attend college after high school. Take the first step. Learn more at babystepssavingsplan.org.
Yeah, and what I was thinking, Chair Wadlin, if it's okay, to just go left to right and then back here. So this group can go first. Whoever's going to present, you can come right up to the podium and hang your map up and tell us what you talked about. You don't have to say every single thing, but just like in general, what are the kinds of things you called out as special places? Is there anything in particular that you're worried about? Like I noticed a lot of you chose things that are probably protected already, like conservation areas, which is perfectly fine. But I'm wondering, are there any special places that you called out that maybe are at risk and are not currently protected? And then what generally areas you picked for opportunities?
Okay. So my name is Erin Joyce, and I worked with Liz Page and Raina Rubin on this compilation of places. All right, so we flagged early on probably a lot of the places that we think of when we think of open space, the town forest, the Cranberry area, I forget what that's called, Sunset Lake, Pond Meadow Park. We identified the Quincy Reservoir, and then we also made a special point to point out the cemeteries that are in town, some of the historic, more pocket cemeteries, the Elm Street Cemetery. There's one by Sunset Lake, so we identified those. We kind of clustered those. Raina had a really nice thought that during COVID, those areas were like nice little places to walk in for a moment of solitude, and I don't even think people really see them unless they live in the neighborhood, so we wanted to point those out. We talked a lot about the historic area in the town around Thayer and the historic properties across from Town Hall. And, this idea of preserving that, and in the future, like how do we incentivize new development to maybe have an ode to the historic areas? So like whether that's through like architectural guidelines or like how can we work through improving the historic district and recognizing that. So we actually identified that area as both as an opportunity and also something that was special. We talked a little bit about the Manatequit River Walk, areas that are already kind of designated as public space along the River Walk, but then this idea that maybe there would be some connectivity in the future for that. We didn't talk about it as much, but the connection with Blue Hills, the much greater park area. There is some access off of Wood Road, but it's not well signed. And that's kind of overall the feeling between a lot of our open spaces is that there's access, but it's not well signed. There's not a lot of parking, so people aren't even sure if they're allowed to go into the spaces. So I think we talked a lot about making that better. Let's see, some of the opportunities we talked about. We talked a little bit about the Ivory Street corridor, and we identified that from the Grossman Plaza, essentially Best Buy, all the way down to the Armstrong property. And we like that for this idea of redevelopment, targeting it because it's already developed space. We talked a little bit about pedestrian connectivity between some neighborhoods. We didn't identify it, but even through the Rotary and how that can be improved. And one of the things, I guess, to your point, open space that may not be designated open space, but something we may want to preserve. We talked a little bit about the green space in the Hawthorne neighborhood by the St. Thomas More Church. Just, if not to preserve it, just to kind of have maybe ideas about what could go there. And we also talked about Pond Street, the properties on Pond Street possibly being used for veterans, disabled senior housing, and community spaces. So we had targeted those for areas of opportunity. Did I miss anything? Okay.
Great job.
Great, thank you. All right, so you can take or actually just give us, just take it. Yeah, just take it for now. Yeah, you can just start stacking. Oh, I see what you mean. Yes, perfect.
So, for the areas that are special, for the areas that are special, we chose many areas that are special, right? But very special are Eaton's Pond, Casey's Pond,
Microphone,
Jen,
please, if you can
probably
just
have to hold it.
hold
Watson
up. Yeah.
Park, Hollingsworth Park, all of those kind of open space, Pond Meadow, they're all very important to the community and they're utilized quite often. So very important. We also identified like the Braintree Dam and the Quincy Reservoir, which is back behind the mall, and there is some open space there, and we identified that as a area that could be more open space. The Town Hall historic area, and of course the squares, right? So they're special. They're both an opportunity and they're special. So they need some work, and all the school playgrounds. I think that all the neighborhoods, they utilize those playgrounds. There's camps at the playgrounds. Those are all very special. North of Great Pond, it was brought up by the counselor that we could expand water, so that is special there too, and also an opportunity. So in the opportunity space, we said similar, the Ivory corridor and some opportunity there. Wood Road, there's some opportunity for growth there. And also where the lottery is, Brigham and Women's Hospital's going in there, and that could be like great opportunity for more medical and life sciences. The squares are an opportunity, and the landing is an opportunity. And the mall is an opportunity. They'll have to reimagine themselves. We also talked about more of a protection buffer between the neighborhoods and the mall. That's a problem right now, a big problem. During the pandemic, we dealt with so many issues in that neighborhood, so from the mall. So that would be an opportunity and something special.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next group? So you guys.
You can leave it.
Yeah, you can leave it.
I was just trying to rush through the list, and I feel like I have to rewrite the list because it's interesting to see how many it was short, and then there's so many ones, and then how many services.
Okay, so I think that there's starting to be, some really strong themes because we identified many of the places that other groups have also already identified. But in our group, it was quickly very clear that we had a strong sense that a lot of the special places in our town had to do with open green space and water, with water features. So we talked about Sunset Lake, we talked about Pond Meadow, we talked about the whole Manadequat River and how there's a wish for that to be preserved and also to create some connectivity between the different portions of it. And we talked about Smith Beach and how that really needs to be maintained differently and maybe thought through differently in terms of how we use it. But and we also thought about the old Braintree Dam and the reservoir that's there that can be used for passive recreation. And then the opportunity areas were largely like commercial development opportunities. So we talked about the Ivory Street corridor, and we talked about the Route 53, the whole stretch up here, which is kind of run down and needs a facelift at the very least, but some development and investment would be great there. And we talked about all the squares, South Braintree Square, Braintree Square. They're wonderful places that need to be carefully stewarded so that they don't become burdened with too much traffic, but also remain vibrant. And we talked about some of the underutilized buildings in the town, like 90 Pond Street. Some questions about what's going to happen with the old South building once the new one is constructed. And we talked about the high school and how it has great needs in town. And we talked about, what am I forgetting? Oh, the Rotary. There's a difficulty that people have with this side of the town with getting on this side of the town. And the same is true in the reverse. And the Rotary is judged to be dangerous and in need of attention. And I think maybe that gets it for us.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so folks back here, can maybe this group go? Gentleman with the red vest first. You should just be able to, here, can you take some of these down? It'll be a little easier to stick it up.
So we, there are kind of a few themes. We want to maintain the integrity of the neighborhoods. So if we could just draw red around the edges of all the neighborhoods, so there is no encroachment, mega changes, that type of thing. We like the idea of a thing we've labeled as the Quaintness Quotient. I trademarked that, so if any of you use it, I'll know. But it basically means do not maintain more of a colonial look rather than the mechanized, manufactured look for new commercial buildings especially. So areas that we are concerned about, the plaza is going to need to be reconfigured and refashioned. We're sensitive to that in the North Braintree area. We like all the maintained areas already that are the parks and the playgrounds and things of that nature that are going to be untouched anyway. However, if they could be used for more community pathways, those types of things, that would be an effective use. The Manattaquit River walkway, I'd love to see, I love what's happening down here at the dam, but I'd love to see a walkway path all the way from where the dam is all the way out to Smith Beach, if that's where it ends. I think it does. But making sure that the integrity of the squares are also maintained as well, because, you know, they're not. And I know, Julia, you mentioned traffic through the squares. We totally agree. And that's very difficult to manage, transform without doing some major changes to what the squares look like today. There's a lot here. We'll email you the rest about that. So I don't know what else to say except what I've already said. There's too much to really synopsize. Is that a word? Here.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
You want
thank
this, or do you,
Yeah,
can I
we
take
want
this
to
back?
keep that, and also your notes.
You want my notes?
Yeah.
Too?
Yes, please.
I don't share notes. Thank you.
Okay, last group. Come on up. Do you want Connor to go? Okay.
Okay, so we'll start with the areas in blue. Group agreed that, where's A? We'll start with Watson and Smith Beach in this area right here. And then French's Common, the library, the town hall area, Sunset Lake, the golf course, a lot of the open space areas, sort of a common theme. The connectivity of the town to the Blue Hills. In addition to that, we discussed our squares as well as being in the blue. The Elm Street Cemetery, and really just more of an open space theme, some areas of connectivity. Moving to the red, we identified some of the areas along Ivory Street in Grossman. We identified corridors such as going from Five Corners all the way down to Randolph, the corridor from the Rotary along Union Street down to the Landing. We discussed the areas along Independence Ave, right off the highway exits, Eaton's Pond, between Quincy Ave and I forget the street there, the St. Thomas More property, South Shore Plaza. We discussed the high school and its issues there, the town-owned property along Pond Street, 74 and 90 Pond Street, Armstrong Court. In addition to that, Garden Park and the heavy commercial uses that are there. And then obviously Columbian Street and Grove, this area right here where the Watery and the Crossroads Pub is. So.
All right, great. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of common themes. I think, Julia, you had noticed that, and you were only the second group, or maybe you were the third. I can't remember. The third. Okay. So this is really helpful for us to we did like a crash, I don't know, what do you call it? Not a crash test. I don't know, crash course today between our tour and hearing from all of you. So as we really dig into all of the information that the town managers are providing with us, I think we'll get a better understanding of what we're looking at. So thank you for doing that. What did you guys think? Did you learn anything from each other? Or I'm just curious how you found that exercise, if you found it valuable for some. We used it to learn stuff because you just taught us a lot. But I'm wondering if you also maybe got something out of it. Raina and then Joseph?
Please, Raina.
I was going to say, yeah, it was, I learned a lot, maybe because I'm relatively new in town, but also just to hear how people perceive the areas. It was a little different, and when we talked together, we came up with some new ideas, of what to do. I mean, I thought it was, very useful for me too, and even just listening to the others say similar things, but also in some additional stuff too with pedestrians, like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense and was compatible with what we were saying, even though we didn't say it.
Thank you. Joseph?
Yeah, somewhat like what Raina had said. My group, I think we're diverse, I guess, in our backgrounds here in the community and in life. But it was obvious to me that there was a common theme of what our concerns were and what those areas of preservation should be, those special places, similar to like some of the other groups that they had pointed out, water features, green space, things of that nature. And then the opportunity areas. I think we seem to be generally in the same area of what an opportunity area, where it is, and even there was probably 3, maybe 4, Jen and Kay, that we identified as both an opportunity area and a special area. So to me, that was a very, very encouraging step and experience.
Wonderful. Did any group not agree on anything? I mean, I didn't hear anybody say they didn't agree. Did you guys not agree on anything?
Actually, what I found is that we had people who really don't know each other start naming things, and we're almost in agreement across the board on every single issue. So, we started with the special places, and we were in agreement on the first 3 or 4 like that. We also went with the purple route of naming some places red, some places blue. And we almost were, when it got to the places that were in need of improvement, we named them pretty easily too. It was interesting to see that people who kind of met each other for the first time were able to see certain things before we even knew what other people were talking about.
Wonderful. Okay, good. So we're going to keep going with our presentation here, if that's okay. And so what we'll do with these results is we'll write up what we, so definitely share your notes. I heard someone say I might type them out, which is fine. But you could just email them to Delaney at jmgoldson.com, or me or Melissa, we'll get them. But we'll give you some kind of a summary of this activity so that we can preserve that for the record. And what we usually do is take photos of all the maps that you drew on, and then we'll do a kind of a transcription of what you wrote. And then we'll give some kind of a summary up front that says these are some common themes we're seeing, and just so you have that as, it's not minutes per se, you're still going to have minutes, but it can be part of the record. And it actually helps us when we're designing things in the future for the broader community to have this information from you this early. Okay. Any questions on that before we move on? All right, so Delaney, I think you're up with the website.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, so I'll just briefly go over the website. We just have some screenshots of the different parts of it, so you can just go ahead. So this is the top of the page when you first open it. Just goes a basic overview of what a master plan is, 10-year vision, roadmap, just basic information. We can, so at the top there is a link. We made a tiny URL, and it's just tinyurl.com/Braintree master plan if you want to find it. After today, you can look through, I'll go through the different portions of the website, but if you have any comments on it, again, you can email me or any of us, and we can make any changes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I won't make you type it out.
If we were on Zoom, we'd put it in the chat, but we can't do that.
If I could just jump in, we can circulate that to everybody, and then what we're going to be doing on the master plan steering committee page, we will have this link as well, and then we will start to probably use this as the main page. Kind of difficult to keep 2 pages updated, but we'll do our best to get that information out there. And then we'll probably have on the front page of our website as well, the town's just master plan has its own website so that people don't have to go digging. If they're going to the town website for something else, that'll be on the front page under the news.
Is this live now?
Yes.
Okay.
But we haven't shared it with anyone, so we can still change it.
Yeah, so you guys can take a look and make any comments, and we can change it before we distribute it. Okay, so this is the next section. It just gives an overview of our project and an overview of the different phases. So as you know, we're in phase 1, and then it just gives a brief synopsis of what's going to happen in each phase. We have upcoming events so that people can stay up to date about what's happening next. We have our meeting tonight, the next MPC meetings, and the community forum for phase 1, and I'll be updating this throughout the project to keep it up to date. These are project documents, and these link directly to the town website. So, and it's a lot of the same documents from the master plan site on the town website. So just linking there. Okay, and this is something that we brought up at the kickoff. So this will be towards the top of the page, and it's a little form that people can fill out to name the master plan. So we just ask people's name, email, and then their idea for what they want to name the master plan. And then we'll be able to collect all of the responses and see if we get any good ideas and figure out what to name the plan.
Yeah, and I just want to, sorry if I'm stealing your mic, literally stealing your mic. We mentioned this approach last time, and it's not so much that the actual name is important, but what I really want to do is start to give people a way to participate right away in this process. And so this is a great thing before we've actually done much work, to just get something out to the community, ask for feedback, and then at the next meeting in April, we can look at what we've got, and if you like any of the ideas, we can start calling the project, a different name than master plan. Sometimes people come up with names that are just more local sounding or more interesting than master plan. Yes?
I had someone make a comment or an observation to me. Do you have many people give it a different name other than master plan?
Yeah, we have seen a lot of different names like Envision Braintree or Imagine Braintree 2033 or whatever date we're shooting for, 2033.
Well,
or our I think you had said like Our Town 2023, I can't speak, 2032. What is it? 2033. I'll get that right at some point. But those are just, some things we've seen, so it's like a fun little thing. And,
well, the reason I
yeah.
ask is somebody contacted me and expressed some concern because they said in all of the documents that we go back with through time, it always referred to the master plan.
Oh, sure.
And so they were concerned that if there's a different name, that people, right now, if you're Googling for information on the master plan, you type in the master plan.
Yeah.
So there's concern that there's not going to be the easy access that there would be if it's just called a master plan,
Sure.
because that's what it is.
I understand that. I mean, it is still a master plan. So, what we've done in other communities, we're working on a housing plan in Salem right now, and they didn't want to call their plan a housing production plan because it was not only about production, it was about other things too. So they changed the name to housing roadmap. But the subtext is still a housing production plan.
So
if
it would still be called the
yeah,
master
I mean, this
plan.
is still a master plan that complies with the state
And
requirements.
so if somebody was researching it, they would be able to research it and,
Yes. Yeah.
and assuming that town documents will refer to it as the master plan?
Yeah, it probably will say whatever the cool name is that you come up with, and then you can say a master plan or something like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Okay, so, you're presenting.
That was pretty much it for this. Yes, and then as we go forward with the project, we'll have a lot more content to put on the page. So we'll have different links to different activities and engagement, stuff that people can take part in. So this is just an example of what we've done in Medway. We did a crowd mapping activity where people could look at a map online and then put a point on the map with their idea. And you can see here the screenshot just shows someone's idea, and then people were commenting on it and, engaging with each other and talking about each other's ideas. So there were tons of points on this map, and we just zoomed into one. But on the website, we'd have a way to link to this and have it all in one place there. Oh yeah, we can have. This is all through ArcGIS and Esri products, which have different survey tools. And actually, the survey about naming the master plan is through something called Survey 123. So we can have different polls like that if you want to, put out a poll or a survey. Or we also, we can just poll people about different topics and questions, and right on the website.
Will we do that? That would be very interesting if you polled people and said, what are your top 3 concerns of Braintree? Will we consistently do that to try to engage the public?
Yeah, it's interesting. Melissa was just saying to us before, it would be cool if, maybe every week or every certain interval, whatever it is, we ask a new question, and it could be exactly like that. Yeah.
Great.
Does the patch do something like that for us? Like the Braintree patch, put a link in, sometimes they, cover these topics and it says if you want to get involved, and then they, you know, we could populate more emails? How does that work? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to be having some discussions with the mayor in regards to what we want to do for our social media preference. The town does have a Facebook account, and maybe we could just do periodic posts saying, you know, we're doing the master plan, visit the website, and just kind of direct everybody to this particular location. So that they can, you know, get involved, and we can, as we work through the various activities and questions that are going to be up there, you know, hopefully we can start to get some people that aren't coming to the meetings or don't want to come to the meetings kind of participate in their own way. But if anybody has any suggestions about any type of newspaper stuff or different outlets or whatever, just feel free to reach out to me.
Just another quick question that might involve both of you guys and Melissa. Is this, I'm sure that we're going to get questions from people, like where can I comment or email, or who do I email if I have a comment or question or want to get a hold of us? Is there going to be one central email address where if someone has a question or a comment, is this going to be the place where people comment directly?
Most likely,
okay.
Yes, most likely. It's sort of a central area that is accessible, and I think it's getting people to go to the website is where they're going to find all the information. And maybe they have a question and they go to the website and the question's answered. Okay. You know, maybe it's, well, when's the next meeting, or when's the community forum? So really want to populate this with as much information as possible and really encourage people to go here. The naming exercise will be sort of the first exercise, and then once we get into a pattern and get into phase 2 and then even into phase 3, you know, sort of gearing up, start off a little slow and gear up as questions.
So people who won't maybe necessarily be able to attend any of the public forums and come here and sit for meetings, they'll still be able to email or participate or comment. Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Will we see the comments, and when they comment on the surveys and the comments, will we be able to, are you going to provide us that data?
Yeah, so what we do is for every phase of the project, we create a final deliverable that includes everything we've learned through the process. So in phase 2, which is where a lot of the public engagement around visioning will be, we'll have lots of different ways to collect information, including like the crowd map idea on the website. If people email in, or if they're taking the surveys, if we do weekly polls or whatever the right rhythm is, anything like that, we'll have an aggregated summary at the end of phase 2 that says this is everything we learned through the entire phase 2, and this is what we think your vision should be based on all those things we've heard. And it gives you a really kind of meaty report that has basically a transcript of everything and then a summary of what we think it means, and then it basically backs up the vision and goal statements that we create for you guys to weigh in on.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, great. So the first community forum I want to talk about, even though we're going to have another meeting before it happens, but I just want to get us starting to think about it, and then we can talk more about it again next time. So it's Saturday, May 21st, and actually, Melissa, I didn't write down the time. Did we say 9 a.m.?
Well, we talked about either a morning session or an afternoon session, and a couple of the members had mentioned that an afternoon session would probably be better.
Be better,
Yep.
okay, yeah. So, like 1 o'clock?
I think that's good, yeah. We were talking about, what, 2 hours?
It depends on the format, so I just want to talk a little bit about the different formats. So, so the purpose is really to do a public launch of the project where we invite, as many people as will come. It's open to the public. We want to share information about the project, a little bit about what we've learned so far, and but mostly we want to solicit feedback, and we can have different activities that we'll design. Could be something similar to what you just did. We could come up with some other ideas too. We've used a lot of different tools, and one thing about our firm is we really do customize things. Even though we recycle ideas, we don't really do the same exact process for every single community, because we want to get your input too about what you think would be most interesting to learn and what kind of activities we should do. So we'll present you at the next meeting with a bunch of different ideas, that you can kind of weigh in on, and we're happy to tweak things or change things out. And so the idea would be to design a bunch of activities where community members don't need to know a lot, they don't need to have memorized any, data or be experts in any subject to participate. And so the way we structure that, we could do two styles. So it's in this room, by the way. And we do two general styles, and then within each of those styles, there's lots of decisions to make about what are we sharing, what kind of activities will we do. But the two general styles are an open house style or a workshop style. The open house, both would start with a presentation. So sometimes people sometimes people do an open house a little bit differently, where people really do come in and out whenever they want. But I find the negative of that is that nobody has the benefit of learning anything from a presentation. So I do like to kick off an open house with a presentation that is at a specific time. And then we would have stations around the room that we would ask you all and our team would help to staff and run people through activities and explain, there'll be some information, maybe some mapping, and then activities that they can do together. And so that's the one style. And then people just leave when they're done. So that's the open house part. You're not forced to stay for a full 2 or 3 hours. But we would have, maybe if we started at 1, maybe the presentation would be at 1:15 or 1:20, just to give people chance to come in, get a name tag, have a little snack or whatever, and then hear a presentation. And so what we typically do in terms of setup is we have stations around the room and then seating in the middle, and people first sit and hear the presentation, ask questions, and we orient them to the stations in the room and say, this is what you can do at each station, and you guys would all introduce yourself and say which station you'd be at, and then they'd go off and we'd break the seating down while they're roaming around. So that's the one format. The second format is more they're here from the beginning to the end. It's a workshop style where we would have tables around the room. People would be, sitting at a table of 6 to 8 people, typically is what we break it out into. And they have activities at their table and they stay with that group. You can do where you rotate tables, so that gets a little complicated. We can do that. It's called the World Cafe style. We could talk about different styles, but the main idea is that people are at a table, whether they're moving or staying in a table and doing a bunch of activities with a group. And each of you then, instead of being stationed at an open house activity, you would be stationed as a facilitator at a table. So every table would have one of you or a member of my team facilitating the discussion. And that's really where people do stay the whole time. People can leave if they want to, but you're encouraged to stay the whole time, and you participate in the whole discussion at your table, and then you do a presentation, kind of like we just did now, where people hear the general things people talked about at each table. So those are the two formats, and so that's why I didn't answer Melissa's question, because the open house can go, we'd probably cut it off after 3 hours or so if people are still here, but most of the time people do their thing and they leave, and it's, maybe a half an hour for presentation, and then people stay another half hour, an hour, or something like that. Some people may linger. But the workshop style would probably be 2 full hours, because we'll do presentation, then we'll do activities. Sometimes we break it up where you do part A of an activity and then do some report outs, and then part B of an activity and then report outs. But typically those workshop type styles take a couple hours. So that's we could potentially do it in 90 minutes, but I would advertise that it's 2 hours just so people aren't expecting anything less. So you don't have to make a decision right now. We can design it next time, but I just wanted to give you that to kind of mull over a little bit.
So in your professional opinion, because we want to get the most out of the session, and we want to get the most information, and we want to attract people and give, get you information for the plan. So what will yield a better result?
So
typically?
It's hard to say. There are pros and cons for each one. So the con of the open house style is that people don't necessarily talk to each other. They probably will talk to you all, which is good, because they'll roam the stations and probably ask you some questions. But mostly they're doing individual activities where they, answer something on a Post-it note or put a dot sticker on or draw something on the map. But they're not really interacting with, they can, but it's not kind of designed that would kind of force that interaction. The benefit of the open house is that people don't feel captive, and they can come hear the presentation, and if they're in a hurry, they can participate in as many stations or as little as they'd like, and then leave and not feel like they're disturbing the whole event by leaving in the middle. So that's often something that people like, and also if they don't like, maybe there are counselors or other folks that feel like they kind of know about the master plan, they don't need to hear the presentation, and they've got something going on with their kids, so they just pop by and do some activities and leave. So it gives a little flexibility. The benefit of the workshop style is the opposite of what I just said. So it's the people are encouraged to, they sit with each other, people that they may not know. Typically the way we organize the tables, and we don't have to do it this way, but the way we typically did it before COVID, we haven't done one of these in a while, is we give name tags with an assigned table, and so the person you walk in with is likely not the person you sit with, because we stack the name tags, so it's, table A, table B, table C. Now, sometimes people object to that because they say, well, I wanted to come with my friend. And that's fine. We let them, we're not going to argue with people. We're like, okay, fine, take the one for your friend to sit next to you. But because we do it that way, we can separate, not everybody argues with that. And it's randomized. Yeah. Raina?
Do you find there's more participation with the open house than the other, or it doesn't make a difference because people don't really know when they come what they're going to see? Do you think it makes a difference? Do you get more participation with one or the other?
Yeah, it really is tough to say. I have to say, we did an open house style in October, and we were really disappointed with the turnout. I think it's because, I actually think it was because of COVID, and people were still very nervous about coming out. Because the town did an amazing job with outreach. Like, we couldn't think of any other thing that they could have done. So it wasn't for lack of knowing. But in, pre-COVID days, I feel like it's different. I feel like the open houses do, because it's so flexible, and if you advertise it that way. So you can advertise it, like, come for a 30-minute presentation and stop by a few stations, and you can make it seem like it is. And then, with it's hard for me to say because sometimes we've done breakout type ones, the workshop style, and we've gotten hundreds of people to come. And it's, overwhelmed us, and we've had to, grab new tables and get more seating out. So it's kind of hard to say. The drawback with the workshop style is some people do feel like they don't want to come because they can't commit the 2 hours, and they feel like they should. If they are sitting in a group of 6 or 7 people, they feel like they shouldn't leave. And so there's a little bit of, well, maybe I won't come if I'm going to need to stay for 2 hours. So I don't want to not answer your question, but there's not a one, black and white way to do it.
I have a question. So in that open house forum, when you didn't get enough people, how did you change your strategy to get the answers that you needed to get?
Yeah. So in the open house, when we didn't get enough people, we actually quickly, within 24 hours, Delaney knows because she did it, created an online forum. We basically took all the information that we had at the open house and we put it to a new web platform with the same questions. We just did it on the web. And then we were able to double participation. We got a little more than double of what came, which was still slightly disappointing to the committee, to be honest with you, but they were at least glad that we were able to turn this around and get some more feedback that way.
Got it.
Would it make sense to do both? to have it online to get that participation and then also do,
Yeah, we could do that. We could do the same activities online. We could translate them to online. Delaney doesn't mind, right? No, it's actually easier when we know we're going to do it ahead of time than trying to scramble and do it. Yeah, we flipped it quickly. Yeah.
I think it probably, especially the world we're living in, probably
Yeah,
makes
have
sense.
both.
Meaning like 2022.
Yeah.
Makes sense to have both online because some people don't feel comfortable coming and participating with people they don't know. Some
Yeah.
people can do it while they're, at home on their couch.
Right.
So I would assume that it just makes sense to do both kinds so the people from everywhere can
Yeah,
participate.
that works for us.
Sorry,
we can do
Delaney.
that. That works for us.
And if we
so,
can- oh, sorry, go ahead.
I guess if we're going to do an online platform, what I would say is the activities of an open house would translate a little easier to an online platform because the breakout session is more about talking to each other and prioritize, like it's a little bit of a different design. So I would think that would lean you more towards the open house style.
and if we could help with the outreach when you start to, then I think we could all amplify the messages and.
We can have the mayor do one of his calls.
Yes,
Yes,
the
robocalls.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. So the next slide, I actually just changed it over, is about outreach. So we typically create graphics for you. We create social media graphics that the town can post. You guys can also share it on your personal pages. And then, we create different sizes for Instagram, Facebook, whatever you guys want us to use. And then we create a traditional flyer that you can also, email or post on your website, leave around town, leave at the library, the senior center, town hall, counters, wherever you want. Business, we'd want your help to get the flyers distributed, but sometimes people will even stand out in front of a store, a grocery store or whatever, and or a train station, or you could be, depending on how much time and, your
Total
ability. But we'll create a flyer that you can basically use for all those different types of things. And then we also create a press release that you guys can tweak and whatnot. But we'll give you all of that to use. And then in 6 weeks before the forum, what we like to say is that's when you do the Save the Date blast. And so that would be the week of April 4th. And so we're not meeting with you before that, but we can just work with Melissa to make sure that gets out, email lists, whatever lists you have, social media, et cetera. And then we'll meet with you about a month before the event, and that's when we do the real push of outreach. And so we can share this outreach checklist. You might have gotten it. I actually don't know if we gave it to you yet. But we can share this outreach checklist, which is just a screenshot of it on the screen, but it basically goes through a lot of different ways that we have advised and worked with communities to get the word out. You may think of other ways. This might not be everything. Or you may say oh, that's going to be a waste of time in our community because no one watches, maybe the local cable station. I have no idea. Maybe they do. I just use that as an example, not to be insulting. And then the other, some of these are bigger lifts than others. One idea on here is for multiple members of the committee to write letters to the editor about why they feel this plan is so important from their own perspective, so that you're really speaking to folks in a more personal way than a press release would. And it also just gets more coverage that way, because you get the regular press release and then a bunch of letters that you can stagger throughout the month leading up. So those are some different ideas, and we thought we'd organize you more at the next meeting, because that's a month out, and then just more do the save the date and get all the graphics done, before then.
Great.
Any other questions? That's really the whole presentation, so.
No, thank you.
Any questions about the forum or next steps, or?
Anyone in the audience have any questions?
I think you may need to stand up to the podium, though.
Yeah, if you could please come up to the podium.
I can repeat your question. Okay.
Please, can you?
What is a letter to the editor? Do you want me to answer that?
No.
Okay. Okay. I don't know when you're joking, because I only met you tonight. Okay. Okay, so the next and last slide is just, we'll see you at the next meeting. It's April 28th, 7 p.m. I believe we always have this room, right? And we'll give you an update of what we've learned at the focus groups. And we'll also, really dig into the planning for the forum that night. So give some thought to, yes?
Quick question on the focus groups. Will you be sending us a list of the subjects again?
I can.
Or just give them
They're
to
the
us?
they're the master plan elements, essentially. So again, quickly, transportation, circulation, and transit.
Hang on.
I'm going to put the slide up again. We can also, this presentation, we typically put the presentation up on the project website. Every presentation we make to you guys, we'll put up on the project website. And the list is right here on slide 5, so we just put it up.
So this will probably be up tomorrow, if not Monday.
That's the only one.
But just again, for the group and for those at home, transportation, circulation, and transit, number 1. Number 2, economic development. Number 3, housing. Number 4, historic and cultural resources. Number 5, open space, natural resources and recreation. And number 6, sustainability and resilience.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, then we should go to the next item on the agenda, which is an update on the recording secretary.
So we haven't hired one yet. I was hoping to get a recent graduate, recent graduate of a planning program, and I've been unable to connect with that person. Louise, that works in our office, did the last set. So we can continue to use her as needed, and then when I get a chance to engage this person or somebody else, we'll do that. But we have the minutes regardless from the last meeting.
Okay, great. And then lastly, is there a motion to approve the minutes of February 24th meeting?
I actually have a comment.
Oh, go ahead.
I wanted to just note, I thought in going back through and reviewing the minutes, I was looking forward to rereading the discussion each member had brought, saying who they are, how long they've been in the town, and what there was one thing that they liked about the town. I thought that was a really moving part of our meeting. And it was summarized in just 2 sentences in the minutes. And I think for someone who's maybe trying to catch up to speed or something, there's nice nuances with the introduction of the members of our committee. So I was just wondering if it would be possible to expand on that one paragraph and just include a snippet of what everybody said. I really thought I would read that in the minutes, and that was just, I feel like a comment I'd like to add. So thank you.
Okay.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 24th.
So all in favor, say aye.
With the revision?
Oh, I'm sorry, with the revision that Erin just mentioned. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Who was the second? Thank you.
Anybody?
Anyone opposed?
Take a bit.
No? Okay. Approved. Motion is approved. And the meeting is adjourned.